few of you are probably scratching your head and wondering why the tree's still up and the decorations are still out. Well, for the rest of the world, other than North America, or I shouldn't say all of it, but a good portion of it, Three Kings Day or Epiphany was yesterday. I just brought a couple of my Christmas cards that have the three kings on them, or the Magi, the wise men, whatever name you want to give to them. And that day is January 6th, so the Sunday closest to it is Epiphany Sunday. That's today. So traditionally, all of the decorations that you receive from Christmas would remain up through that date. And in fact, most of the world does their gift exchange on January 6th, not in December as we do. And in fact, there's several seasons in the church year, and if you ever wondered where we get the 12 days of Christmas, well, this is where it's from. Christmas Day is the first day, and we count all the way until we reach Epiphany, and that's the 12th day of Christmas. We also do this with other seasons in the year. There's the first week of Easter, and then there's the second week of Easter, which is a week later, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth week of Easter until we reach Pentecost. So we don't always talk about it that way. We don't say Easter week 3, but the church used to. And one of those customs that the church used to do when Christmas cards first came about, the first Christmas cards that were set up were really the cards that had pictures of the Magi on them. And what you would do is you would take your first card that you received, you would put it on the doorpost above your house, and it would remain there until the day of Epiphany, when you would give gifts of water and chalk. Anybody get water and chalk for Christmas? Well, water's just practical. I mean, if you think of, we live in the Great Lakes, we have water that's indoors. We don't have any issues with water. But if you're in the Middle East or even in Europe throughout the Middle Ages, good water is a wonderful gift to give people. And the chalk was that you would go then on the day of Epiphany and write on the top of the doorpost the beginning part of the year. So we would have wrote 19, and then you would write these letters, C, M, and B. So plus C, plus M, plus B, and then you'd write 18 at the end because that's the year. Now, I'll tell you what the C, M, and B are for in a little bit, but that's one of those traditions that we've lost. And in fact, ancient church people from probably the 3rd century to the 13th century would have celebrated Epiphany more than Christmas, because they didn't celebrate birthdays at all. The church didn't celebrate birthdays. They would celebrate, if there was a great individual in the church, the day that that saint died. That would become a day that they would have a celebration on, not the day they were born. They didn't pay much attention to birth at all. Birth didn't matter unless you made it past about 5 or 7, and now we knew you're viable. So there wasn't a reason to celebrate birthdays because your child may not make it that far. So Epiphany really was the beginning of celebrating the Christmas season. And the exchanging of gifts comes from, we'll see in a minute as we read the text, from the gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. So let's read Matthew's account of this event. In fact, we only have Matthew's account. I wish, and I know others do too, that Luke told this story too, because Luke gives wonderful details. He would answer many more questions that we have. But Matthew's purpose in all that he does is to point to the Old Testament and say, look at what God told us what was going to happen, and now see in Jesus it's happened. See what God said? It's happening now. Now live in light of that. That's Matthew's reason for telling all of his stories and all of his facts. So we'll see that as we go through. Matthew makes several references to Old Testament prophecy and then tells how they're fulfilled. So let's read Matthew 2. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I, too, may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child and his mother Mary, and they bowed down and they worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. So stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted, because there are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and he went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went to live in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I wanted to read through the whole of that passage. I know it's a little bit long, but somehow I think we just kind of cram the wise men in at the last minute, and we finish our story, and we jump on with the rest of life, and we don't spend time thinking about the miraculous nature of what's happening here. Maybe it doesn't seem miraculous to you, but if you read through the descriptions of the star appearing, the star guiding them, and the star stopping over the place where the child is at, to me, that seems very miraculous. It seems to be something that we should be able to figure out what it was and see. The thing is, it probably is nothing that any of us will ever experience in our life. I know we recently had, throughout the last year, we just had a supermoon, and we just had some other things that were happening. I think we have 2 supermoons coming up or something at the end of the month, which will be a blue moon and a supermoon at the end of the month. So there's things happening all the time in the skies if you're paying attention to them. And these magi certainly were. But some of the things, and there's programs, and I'll get into this in a minute, there's programs where we can look at the night sky from any place on earth and any time period. We can wind back the clock and figure out where things were at. So what did they see? And what did they see that was so grand that it caused them to gather up whatever they had, including gifts, and go on a journey in order to find this child in a foreign land and worship this foreign king? Now, the best guess of where they came from, it says the east, is probably from someplace around Baghdad. That's the best guess we have. Because we're looking in the east and we're looking for wise individuals, that would be a good place to start. And so they leave and they come. Now, there weren't likely three. We get three from the gifts of gold and frankincense, and where there's three gifts, there had to be three gift givers, right? Well, very likely, though, it's a big caravan with all of their servants, with protection. Some of the guards who are going to guard them. They've got to have people who are going to set up the tents, people who are going to make the food, people who are going to pack things up. They probably are going with this great big procession. You kind of know as the procession gets bigger, the journey will get slower because they won't be in any hurry. They're going to take their time to get there. So I want you to have that image of this, not just three kings on three camels, lonely, making their way through the desert and hopefully finding their way, but a big, massive entourage of dignitaries surrounded by all of their their Secret Service agents who are protecting them and making sure they get there all right, with their cooks and their staff who are going to take, it's a big endeavor to go. So they gather everyone, and they set off on this journey that's going to take them months. We don't know how long exactly. We'll get into the Herod kills off all the babies 2 and under, so that gives us some idea of when they first saw the star, and now they have other things that tell them the star guided them to Bethlehem, and then the star moves and stops over the place where the child is. We'll get in that in just a minute, but I want us to picture having a star guiding us, this massive group of people moving. Now we turn to our song. Our song is We Three Kings. It's a very simple song, a very familiar song. When I went to look up the story behind it, I have 2 different books, and they tell 2 different stories. They both give claim to the same author, John Hopkins, who was a music minister. He went to seminary. He wrote and composed music. So they give him tribute for it. One says he wrote it for his niece and nephew. Oh, that sounds cool, right? Another says he wrote it for a production at seminary during the Christmas season. I don't know if it matters why he wrote it, but there's something interesting about this that we don't find in any other of our Christmas carols. We have the individuals saying in first person what they said, or what they brought, or what they did. So we sing the introduction, and then in verse 2, the first of the 3 wise men talks. And then the next verse, the second of the 3 wise men talks. And the next verse, the third wise man talks. So as we sing, we are, in fact, putting ourselves in the role of the wise men as we sing, instead of being a third party, watching the angels come and watching the shepherds there, or watching Mary and Jesus, and standing outside of it. This song thrusts us into the midst of it and participate as we sing that I'm the one bringing gold, I'm the one bringing frankincense, I'm the one bringing myrrh. So I want you to have that feel as we sing together. So if you'll stand, and we're going to sing We Three Kings. may be seated. Now, the word magi, and I think you can hear this in there, leads us to the word magic. I think that might be why we shy away from using the word magi very often, is at least in centuries past, the church was very concerned about witchcraft and other things, so we didn't want to give this same name to people we're lifting up and people we're tearing down, so we had to separate the two. So I think that's where we try to look into the role of what a magi was. Now, this word magnus, which would be what we have in Greek, would have referred to the individuals in the kingdom of Babylon who were like Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the wise individuals that gave counsel to the king. Now they also did astrology, looked into the stars for things. They did other things in Persia with that. But that's what we're looking at as these individuals are. So there's speculation, we don't know for sure, that some of the teachings or writings of Daniel and during the time were left there, perhaps in Babylon, passed down in this group of wise men, so that the wise men who come to Jerusalem know about Judah. Otherwise, why would they care about what's happening in the province of Judah to a people who are under Rome? Otherwise, Rome's the only thing that matters. Rome's the empire. They should be going to Rome, not to King Herod. But they know some of the history of Israel and the people of Israel. And they've had it left to them, I think, from Daniel, and they've studied it, and they're watching it. So, are they kings? Matthew doesn't say that. Are they magicians? Well, not in the sense of what we're thinking of. When we think of magic, we probably are thinking Harry Potter. That's not what they're thinking. They're thinking understanding of the natural world around them. Scientists and astronomers might be better words than magician. And we throw the word wise men in there as well, trying to help us understand that these were people who were learned, they understood things, and they were able to give wise counsel. So we have them. Now, maybe you've heard the names, I don't know if you have, Casper, Melchior, or Balthazar. Well, that was the names of the three wise men. You don't know their names? This develops very early on, at least by the 3rd century. So when the church is first getting established as the religion of the Roman Empire, already the three wise men have 3 names. They have 3 kingdoms that they're over: the king of Tarsus, the king of Arabia and Nubia, and the king of Saba or Sheba. So wonderful thoughts. We have nothing to prove any of that. It's just a way. They were so fascinated, the church was so fascinated by this story that they wanted to fill in all of the gaps that are missing. What are the names of these individuals who came? How many were there? Well, there's 3 gifts, there's got to be 3. We nailed that down. What are their names? We'll come up with names. Where are they from? Here's they're from. And they're piecing together the story and trying to fill in all the gaps to have it make sense, to make it personal. I know the name of the one who came to worship my king in the manger. Now, I told you I was going to tell you what the C, the M, and the B were for. That's what they were for. You should put the C up there, the M up there, and the B up there. So just in case the wise men showed up again, they would know to come in your house because Jesus lived in your house, in your heart. I thought, that's pretty cool. So you give chalk to everybody, and so they can write on their doorpost the name of the new year and the fact that they have Jesus in their heart on the doorpost. I thought that's pretty cool. That's maybe one of those traditions would be great to raise again, but I'm not suggesting today anybody go out and write on their doorpost and stand in the cold. So maybe we won't do that. Now, we have such wonder when it comes to how long did it come to travel, where did they come from, when they left. There's so many questions with this, but I want us to think about something happened so wonderful in the sky that they had to respond. Right? Something happened so wonderful in the sky that it said, we can't stay here and just perhaps send messengers with a gift and say, hey, we know there's a new king. We want to send the present. We're going to get UPS or FedEx to deliver it for us. That was the name of a couple of their donkeys. We're going to just, yeah, I know, it was a bad joke. We're just going to send that along. Whatever they saw and whatever they knew from Daniel was enough to move them to go. I mean, think about if you heard of a birth in your extended family, and let's just say they're in Scotland for sake of argument. How many of you, if it is your estranged brother's son, say, I want to run over, get on a plane, and go visit? And how many, if it's your first grandkid, are jumping on a plane and going to Scotland? See, there's a difference in who it is if you're ready to move. So there's something that tells them who it is, that it's the King, the Messiah. I think they fully understand this is the King of Kings, the Messiah that's born. It's enough to move. Whatever they saw moved them to go. Now, I've looked at in several different examples of what it might be. People have tried to wind it back and guess what it is. There's a thing out there, you can look it up. I would show it, but it's an hour long, called the Bethlehem Star, which tries to unveil for us what happened. And this is what I think is the best explanation. It may not be it, but it's a good explanation. And in September of 3 BC, we have the King Star, which is Regulus, and we have, or it's called Rex, and we have the King Planet, which is Jupiter, and we have the constellation of Leo, the lion, which is also the tribe of Judah, is the lion. We have something that happens there. Now, we see star, and we think of not a planet. But we have to remember, in ancient times, everything in the sky was a star if it had light. So planets and stars are stars from the biblical perspective. They're not distinguishing them. It's whatever's there. And so what happened in 3 BC in September was in the constellation that would have been the tribe of Judah, you have the King Star and the King Planet come together, and then they go apart, and then they come together, and then they go apart, and they come together again. So a triple conjunction of the King Planet and the King Star in the tribe of Judah. That's wonderful. That's exciting. That's probably how they figured out the king was born. That's probably when it says they told Herod when they first saw the sign. That's probably one of the things they mentioned. Now, at the same time, we have Virgo rising. Virgo is the virgin, and the sun is clothing her, and at her feet is the moon. Now, if we went to Revelation, this is a description that's in Revelation. So something's going on here, and it also happens to be Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. Something's going on. You're looking in the sky now. A conjunction between Jupiter and Rex happens. You'll see it a lot of times in your lifetime. A triple conjunction, more rare, maybe only a couple of times in your lifetime. So the wise men, as they're watching, they know this is important. They know it's something significant. They've also got some other things to be able to look at the stars and figure out. Now, if we jump ahead 9 months, the King Planet now, which is Jupiter, is aligned with Venus, the mother planet. And in fact, with the naked eye, they're so close together, it looks like it's a single star. And at this time, it is the brightest thing in the night sky. So you have the mother planet and the King Planet together. Actually, if you could zoom in and look at it, it kind of looks like Venus is giving birth to Jupiter as it's happening. And it would have been the biggest and the brightest thing that would have ever been seen in the lifetime of the Magi. Assuming they lived maybe even 70 years, there's nothing brighter than they would have ever seen. Now, if we jump ahead again, And we shift our focus from looking from Baghdad at the night sky to being in Bethlehem and looking and trying to say, okay, how does the star stop over the place where Jesus is? Well, remember I mentioned this retrograde thing that happens? Retrograde basically is when our planet moves in position to the other things in the night sky. So we move past some line between us, and we're the ones who are moving, but it makes it look like it's going back and forth. So that's what's happening, or what happened there. On December 25th of 2 BC, Jupiter, the king star, goes into retrograde. So if you're looking south from Jerusalem over Bethlehem, suddenly Jupiter stops moving in the night sky. Now, this is just one possible explanation, and I think it's a good one. But here's the bigger thing, I think. No matter what it was that God put in the sky, that was put in motion at creation. God put into motion at creation the night sky that was going to reveal the birth of his son. If we just pay attention to the world around us, as the psalmist says, the earth declares the glory of God and the heavens is handiwork. That's some fancy handiwork. Moving stars around into conjunction and alignment so that if I'm in Baghdad, I see this, and when I get to Jerusalem, I see this, and I see the star stop over Bethlehem. Our God is great, and our God is awesome. And he orchestrated all of these events together to give us the greatest gift we're ever going to have, and that's his very own son. Born for us, who died for us, who came for us. That's why Epiphany is that important. The star, the revelation of God has come. And we're to worship and adore him just like the Magi. Let us pray. God, we praise you and we thank you that you, at creation, put things into motion to reveal the birth of your son. Wow. What have you put into place in our lives and in our future? God, help us to just strive after you with all that we do, to bring love, to bring all that we have to you, to offer it in worship, to offer it in service, to offer it in gratitude. May we be so grateful and so worthy to worship you. God, we praise this and we ask your blessing for the year ahead, for us to faithfully follow you as the wise men followed the star. Pray this in Jesus' name.